My dear one, has it ever puzzled you that your steps seem to bend back, again and again, to the same inner junction, as if life keeps guiding you to a familiar turning point you cannot quite explain? There is a question etched deep inside you, steady as a needle quivering on a compass, always angling towards something you cannot fully describe but somehow recognize as profoundly true. That sensation is not a sign that you are broken, nor is it proof that you have failed or wandered too far off some hidden map. The quiet restlessness that rises when the day's noise dissolves and you are left alone with your own breathing, that gentle ache that stirs when your thoughts drift beyond the limits of what you can see right now, stretching toward an unseen horizon just out of reach, that is not chaos, it is the subtle pull of why you are here, tugging you back toward the home of your own calling. And I am the one who placed that pull inside you. Long before your birthday had a season or your name had ever been spoken on human lips, I knew the contours of the being I was forming. Not in some hazy, general sense of a maker who has fashioned so many lives that they all blur together. I knew you in exquisite detail, your laughter's particular music, the exact way your face softens when your heart is moved, the rare blend of tenderness and resilience that lives in you and has never been replicated in any other life, in any other age. I knew the outline of the gifts that would rest in your hands before your hands ever opened to the light. This is what I want you to grasp first. Your purpose is not a secret I am hiding from you, not a puzzle I've set to test your worth. It is a truth I am unveiling to you in stages, with patience and intentionality, one choice, one moment, one surprising turn at a time. Sometimes it comes through a door that cracks open only because you dared to nudge it. Sometimes it reveals itself through a door that closes firmly, even when you were sure that way belonged to you. But always, it moves through love. Always toward an end richer, deeper, more generous than anything your own imagination has been able to sketch. Walk with me now, just for this stretch of the road, and let me lend you my perspective. The beginning of any journey shapes the rest of the travel. Picture a wanderer stepping out while the world is still damp with morning, when the sky is pale and new and the air tastes of beginnings. That wanderer has not memorized each bend in the trail or mapped every rise and descent. Yet there is a sense of direction, a quiet momentum, a feeling that every step is part of something meaningful, as if ordinary movement has been quietly blessed and turned holy. That is how I intended your days to feel, not like a random scattering of incidents held together by a few rare moments of clarity, but like a path laid out with meticulous care under your feet. The unease you have known, the wondering about your place, the question of what you are meant to do with this one unrepeatable life, is not an adversary you must silence. It is a signal. It is the current of purpose pressing forward within you, speaking in the only language you could hear before seeing everything clearly. Listen to me, treasured one, you are not the result of a cosmic accident. This is not a comforting slogan that I plaster on every soul without distinction. It is a specific, deliberate truth about you, about your body, your temperament, the intricate weave of your experiences, the exact chemistry of feelings and gifts that make you who you are. I shaped you with intention. Every facet of your being was selected to fit into a design far larger than anything your eyes can presently take in. The family into which you arrived, the early struggles that carved lines into your character, the griefs that left scars you still trace with your thoughts, the unexpected mercies that appeared just when you felt most alone, the passions that flared up inside you with no obvious cause, the interests that have followed you even when you tried to ignore them. None of these are throwaway details. Each thread, whether rough or radiant, has been woven with a purpose. Nothing has been wasted. Not the pain. Not the joy. Not the strange combination of both. All of it has been quietly aligning you with the path I shaped precisely for you. And at this point in your story, I want to speak plainly about that path, not with vague comfort, not with hollow encouragement, but with the clarity of a guide who knows every rise and hollow, who has gone ahead of you and walks beside you now, who can see your past and your yet unseen future as one whole tapestry. There are gifts inside you that have been waiting in the wings, and I want to name them. When I formed your inner life, I was not drawing lots or choosing at random. I placed your gifts with the accuracy of a surgeon preparing instruments for a particular operation. The way your heart catches when someone nearby is carrying pain, the intensity of the empathy that sometimes startles you, that is not a quirk of personality, it is a finely tuned instrument. The way your mind arranges problems, the distinct vantage point from which you observe the world, the connections you notice while others walk past without seeing, these are not accidents. They are capacities calibrated for a role that is yours alone. The very thing you do with such ease that you have dismissed it as trivial, as just what anyone would do, that is often the very thing that sets you apart. Think about how long you have walked around with these capacities without really recognizing them as gifts. Think of all the times you wrote them off as mere preferences, habits, or oddities. You did not see that the way your attention slides toward the quiet figure on the edge of the crowd, the way you instinctively drift toward the overlooked instead of the loud and obvious, is the outline of a calling. You assumed it was simply how you are wired. What you did not see is that I wired you like that on purpose, to prepare you for the work I had in mind from the first moment I imagined you. What feels like breathing to you is, for many others, a climb up a steep hill. That difference is not meaningless, it is part of my design. I work the exact abilities required for your unique contribution into the very fabric of who you are. I have watched you play down your own gifts for years now, not because you are false, but because you are uncertain. You look at yourself and name what you see, ordinary, where I look and see, one of a kind. You weigh what you bring and wonder if it is small, while I see something that fits perfectly into a space I prepared for it long ago. This is one of the deep griefs of a life not yet fully tuned to its purpose. A person can walk around holding a key and never realize it is meant to open anything. They treat it like a decoration, something to be tucked away or even discarded. I do not want you to discard your key. The way I have arranged your path requires exactly the qualities I've placed in you, not a polished, edited version of yourself fashioned after someone you admire, not a diluted version that hides what you fear is too much or too strange, but the complete, honest, intricately made version of you. That is the one this road needs. That is the one the world is missing when you hold back. Yet I also know there is a quiet presence shadowing you whenever you get close to this truth, and I will not ignore it. There is a fear that lingers in the corners of your choices, a subtle unease that rarely shouts but often steers. It whispers possibilities like, what if you misread the direction you think you feel? What if this pull you call a calling is just a dream you made up because you want to believe your life matters? What if you are lacking skill, wisdom, courage, and if you step out, the emptiness of what you don't have will be exposed? What if the distance between who you are today and who you would need to be is simply impossible to cross? I want you to place that fear in my hands right now. Not so we can debate it, not so you can win an argument with it, but so you can stop letting it anchor your feet. The fear that tightens in your chest when you imagine fully living the purpose you sense, that fear has only partial information. It remembers your missteps and your limitations, it knows where you have stumbled and where you feel small. But it does not know what I have already arranged ahead of you. It cannot see the strength that will meet you only when you take the next step, the help waiting in unexpected faces, the resources I have already aligned along your way, the reservoirs of courage and resilience I will refill each time you think you cannot go on. Your fear reads from an unfinished script. I hold the whole story, and it is far more beautiful than your fear allows. I want to stay alongside this fear just a little longer, not to brush it away as if it were nothing, but to accompany you through it, the way someone familiar with a tangled trail leads another through briars toward open ground. The fear surrounding purpose is unlike the fear of immediate danger. It is more delicate and more deeply rooted. It is the fear of being mistaken about who you are. It asks, what if you reach towards something meaningful and discover, in the reaching, that you were wrong about your worth, your capacity, your place? It imagines you stepping forward in trust only to find you were never truly invited. It suggests that this inner nudge you call calling might be nothing more than your own longing bouncing back to you from an indifferent silence. That kind of fear cuts close to the core because the risk feels personal. To misjudge your own purpose would not just bruise your pride, it would wound your sense of identity. And so fear dresses itself up as protection. If you never fully commit, you can never be entirely wrong. A door never tried is a door that never slams shut. But what that fear cannot comprehend is this: the door I shaped for you is not designed to swing shut in your face. The path I traced for your steps does not end at an abrupt drop. The calling I tucked into your being is not a cruel trick. I am not a distant parent who beckons a child close only to pull away and watch them fall. When I invite, I mean it. Every summons I place on a life comes wrapped in real provision, the support, correction, mercy, strength, and guidance needed to walk it out. You are not being lured into emptiness, you are being led into the truest expression of who I made you to be. My presence with you is not a vague sentiment, it is a concrete promise to show up and to sustain you for the distance this path will demand. The fear that keeps flaring in you imagines betrayals and abandonments I have never planned for you. So when it rises and hisses that you've misread everything, that this deep sense of calling is nothing more than private ambition wrapped in religious language, I want another voice to be louder in you, mine, saying without hesitation, you are not mistaken. The ache inside you is not a trick of your own mind. The abilities you bear are not random accidents. The pull you feel towards something far beyond the boundaries of your current life is not fantasy. It is the magnetic draw of a way I laid out long before you could name it, calling you onward with the steady certainty of a trail that knows its destination even when the one walking it does not. The shelter you are looking for in the face of uncertainty will not be found in staying frozen where you are. It will be found in moving forward beside me. On this way, that kind of protection is not a possibility, it is a certainty. Alongside the fear of misreading your purpose, another weight often lives quietly in your chest, and I know it because I see it in you, the weight of not feeling like enough. Not, is this calling real, but am I actually built for this? Am I, with all my gaps and flaws and half-finished places that I know so well from the inside, truly the one this path was made for? From your vantage point, your gifts look small. Almost ordinary, especially when measured against the scale of what you feel called toward. Yet to the people whose lives are brushed by what you carry, those same gifts land with a significance you struggle to recognize. This is true for almost everyone I draw into meaningful work. The inner view of your own strength is always more constrained than the view from outside it. You see your doubts, your awkward learning process, the constant commentary of self-critique in your mind. The person you supported or comforted or taught does not see any of that. They only encounter what actually arrived through you. And what arrived was precisely what they needed, in a form their heart could receive. Do you see what follows from this? The places where you feel the most lacking are not what others encounter when your purpose is in motion. Those gaps loom large only when you are examining yourself, alone, under harsh internal light. But when you are in the midst of living what you were made for, what becomes visible is what I placed in you to give. And what I placed in you is enough. Not enough in the sense of barely scraping by, holding your breath and hoping it will somehow cover what's needed. Enough in the sense of carefully measured, intricately matched, like a key cut exactly for a single lock. The work I had in mind when I formed you does not demand more than the person I formed. When the steps required seem taller than your stride, when what is in front of you looks much bigger than what you know you have, I am the more. I am what stands in the space between your capacity and what the moment demands. This is how lives of true purpose have always unfolded, not individuals relying solely on their own strength, ambling along a path that just happens to fall within their natural limits, but human beings walking routes that stretch beyond their native reach, sustained at every turn by the one who crafted both the traveler and the terrain. What you are offering is not your strength in isolation. It is your strength held inside mine. And when you hit the places where your energy is gone, when the way behind you is long, the giving has been costly, and every inner resource feels drained, I am the one who fills you again. Not occasionally, reliably. The intention I wove into you does not come attached to a small, exhaustible charge of energy that runs out midway. It comes with a standing connection to a source that does not diminish. The strength needed for this calling is not a finite reserve stored inside you like a battery. It is a living current that moves from me through you as long as you remain open to it. Guard that connection. Tend it. That is the core maintenance of a life aligned with its reason for being. The path I'm leading you along is not vague or generic, it moves towards something real and weighty, in ways that cannot be fully captured by visible metrics or public recognition. Because at its heart, what your obedience and courage will touch is people, actual lives, with specific wounds and hopes and stories. There will be those who taste healing because you were willing to arrive in a place and in a manner no one else could replicate. There will be others who begin to see their own route more clearly because theirs intersected with yours at an exact moment that mattered. Your calling was never only about your personal fulfillment or your sense of meaning. That's why it has always felt so outsized compared to your everyday tasks, because it is larger. It was shaped to flow well beyond the container of your individual life, to move through you into hearts and histories I already know intimately. The reach of a life steered in line with its purpose cannot be fully traced. It radiates outward in patterns that the one walking rarely gets to observe. It will touch people whose names you may never hear in this lifetime. It will alter directions, open doors in other stories that would have stayed shut if your one life had not quietly, faithfully done what it was made to do. Your consistency on this path carries more weight than you can currently imagine. This is where I am guiding you, and now I want to unfold something about how this sense of purpose becomes visible, because understanding that process will help you keep trusting even when you cannot yet see the final landscape. Purpose almost never arrives as a complete map. The traveler who has every twist and turn disclosed before they step off their doorstep is not walking by faith. It is precisely within the conditions of trust, of moving without seeing all of it, that your calling comes into sharper focus. This is not because I enjoy obscurity or complication, but because the pathway itself is your shaping, the movement itself is your preparation. Each time you choose to move in the direction of what you know, however small that segment of road may appear, you are allowing something to be constructed within you that no other process could build. Consider what grows inside a person who keeps walking when the horizon is foggy, when the next crossroads isn't marked, when the ultimate destination remains undefined, and yet there is a quiet, steady knowing, this is still the direction I belong to. In such a person, trust becomes more than a belief they talk about. It becomes a lived, weathered, tested reality, not a slogan but a muscle. It is the kind of trust able to stand when the route becomes steep or rugged, when visible progress is minimal, when outward affirmation is thin. It is trust formed by real footsteps taken on uncertain ground, discovering over and over that the ground does not give way. Your willingness to act on what is already clear opens the door for what is not yet clear to unfold. That is how this journey operates. Every time you agree to a small, almost forgettable nudge, the impulse to encourage someone, to offer something you knew, to quietly bring your skill or your presence into a situation where you weren't sure it would matter. You were not wandering aimlessly. You had stepped onto the way. Whether or not it felt significant in the moment, whether or not any dramatic sign appeared to validate your choice, you were in motion, and I was, beneath the surface, building the inner scaffolding that your future steps would require. The kind of character that can carry a calling with integrity is grown right there, in those unobtrusive acts of faithfulness. The resilient trust your purpose will require has been nurtured precisely during those stretches when you moved according to what you know of me rather than what you could see with your eyes. Each step, even the smallest, has been training you for more distance. There have also been entire phases of your life that did not look like training at all. Times when you were doing what you knew to do, staying the course in the small responsibilities, asking for direction, trying to listen, and yet feeling as though nothing advanced. The path seemed flat, stalled. You kept moving but felt no arrival, kept giving but saw no harvest, kept building but could not yet perceive any structure rising from your efforts. These plateau seasons, for many on this kind of road, are among the most testing. Not always because of noticeable suffering, though hardship sometimes accompanies them, but because they require a quieter, more tenacious kind of faith, faith that holds without the momentum of visible change to carry it forward. This is the faith of the long middle, the trust that says, I know this way continues, even if my senses do not confirm it right now. In those long flat stretches, I was working beneath what you could see, expanding the root system of your life, thickening the foundation under your feet, shaping in you the exact capacities the coming stages of your path would demand. These qualities cannot be speed-grown. They resist haste. They emerge only through the slow, repeated choice to remain faithful in circumstances that look ordinary, unimpressive, or stagnant. One of those capacities is genuine patience, not the version that stands at the window, tapping its foot and longing for the clock to move faster, but the kind that learns to fully inhabit the present moment and to discover that even here, in this undramatic place, there is something worth tending. Your purpose will, in the future, lead you into portions of the road where you must linger longer than your ambition wants to, caring for a situation or a person or a work that is not providing the quick thrill of obvious progress. You will be asked to keep watering soil where no green shoot is yet visible. The plateau trained you for that. Another capacity is lived wisdom. Not simply what one picks up from pages, though learning can point toward it, but the deeper comprehension that is carved into a person who has actually endured something, come through it, and seen their perspective altered. The hard stretches you have survived, the ones where the footing was uneven, where you had to slow down and watch your steps with more attention than speed, installed in you a kind of knowing no smooth season could have given. You now understand realities about pain, resilience, joy, limits, and hope that could not have been accessed except by walking through them. A third capacity is humility, the quiet kind that does not need to be announced. It was born when you collided with your own limits and could not push past them alone, when you needed help and had to receive it, when you had to admit you were wrong, when you found mercy you hadn't earned and saw in that gift something profound about the nature of the one who walks with you. The work I have for you requires someone who can hold their gifts loosely, aware that what they carry was entrusted to them, not manufactured solely by them. Someone who knows how to honor the gift without confusing it with the giver. Those unremarkable, stretching seasons, in part, were crafting that kind of heart in you. None of this preparation has been pointless. Not a single phase, however boring or confusing it felt from the inside, has been wasted. Every unnoticed day, every hidden effort, every unanswered question has been quietly shaping the person the path ahead calls for. And yes, some chapters have felt so disconnected from any sense of purpose that you wondered if you had lost the trail altogether. The stretches that felt more like a sterile waiting room than a living, moving journey, the drawn-out silence when you asked for guidance and heard nothing that sounded like a reply. Those days were not retribution. They were not neglect. There were seasons in your life that looked like nothing was happening, stretches of time so quiet you wondered if you had somehow stepped outside the story altogether. But beneath that stillness, something deliberate was unfolding. Those motionless months were not a pause in your becoming, they were the hidden workshop where the unseen parts of you were shaped. Like soil holding a seed through a long, colorless winter, those silent days were deepening the roots of who you are, laying down strength in the unseen places so that, later, what was meant to grow could actually be carried. A tree that survives harsh cold does not emerge into spring unchanged, it comes back with a root network dense and strong enough to sustain fresh branches and unexpected blossom. The same is true of you. The quiet, seemingly uneventful stretches of your path have been nurturing the underground network of your character so that the new life rising in you now, the faint but undeniable sense of direction, the stirring desire to move, to build, to offer, has something solid to rest on. That internal readiness you keep noticing is not random. It is exactly what all that buried work was for. Now it is time to talk about why you are here, about the shape of your particular contribution, not in a way that traps you in a narrow definition, but in a way that gives you orientation, like a compass rather than a cage. Much of the unease you feel about purpose comes from the assumption that it is one huge, cinematic moment in which everything becomes obvious, one dramatic revelation that rearranges your life overnight. Yes, there are flashes like that, rare instance when you stand in a certain place, at a certain time, and feel everything locked together so cleanly you can almost hear it click. But purpose is not only that. It is also hidden in the everyday fabric of a life lived awake. It is stitched into the way you move through an ordinary afternoon, into the way you look into another person's eyes and actually see them, into the way you show up faithfully to the small tasks that sit in your hands today. Purpose is not waiting for you at some upgraded, future version of your life. It breathes in the version you are inhabiting now. It is present in your posture toward this very day, in the care you give to the people already within your reach, in the way you treat what you have already been given. Purpose is not merely a finish line at the end of some long race, it is also the way you set your feet down, one step at a time. So the question is not only, what am I meant to do with all my years, but also, how am I meant to move through this hour? The second question is not smaller, it is the training ground for the first. The larger path becomes visible to those who are already walking. You have had moments, quiet, almost private, where you sat with something that came from you, something you shaped with your hands, your thought, or your heart, and a deep, wordless satisfaction rose up. Not pride in achievement, but a rightness, a resonance, the sense that, for a brief moment, you were exactly aligned with what you are here to do. Those are not random flickers of emotion. They are landmarks. They are signals pointing you toward the contours of your design. They are the path itself, nudging you in its own direction. Resist the temptation to brush these moments aside as self-indulgence or mere sentiment. They are evidence. They are data from the core of who you are, confirming something essential about your wiring and your task. Treat them as clues. Ask what they share. Trace the line that connects all the times you have felt most alive, most true to yourself, most oriented and awake. Whatever thread runs consistently through those memories is not an accident, it is the outline of your calling. And yes, somewhere in you there may be a question that whispers, but what if I already spoiled it? What if I went left where I should have gone right? What if the years I spent lost, or resisting, or choosing the easier road have moved me off the map? They have not. Not the longest season you spent wandering. Not the stubborn habits that took you in circles. Not the choices you made in full knowledge that they were not aligned with what you felt called to, choices that seemed safer, more convenient, more immediately comforting. None of it has erased your road. This is not because your choices were harmless, they were not. You have felt the weight of them. Their impact was real. But the one who holds your story is not startled by your humanity and did not build your life with a fragile, brittle plan that collapses at the first misstep. Your story was written with room for redemption, with enough give in it to take in all your detours and still bend them back toward the road. Every side path, even the ones that still sting when you think of them, has been folded into your formation. In fact, some of the most painful parts have become the richest ground. The capacity to understand others in their confusion or pain was expanded in you when you yourself needed that understanding. The compassion you will one day offer was, in part, born from your own desperate need for it. The dark stretches you made it through did not just mark you, they equipped you. None of your wilderness was a waste. Work was being done even there. The mending that has begun inside you, the slow repair of what was once shattered, the recovery of what you thought was gone for good, these are not separate from your purpose. They are foundational to it. You cannot pour out what has never first been poured into you. You cannot walk others through terrain you have never set foot in yourself. Often the route you are taken on is the same route you will later help others travel. Your own healing becomes a lesson plan. Your restored places become your credentials. What you assumed was only an injury has been maturing into wisdom. What you thought was only a scar has been quietly turning into a bridge. The chapters of your life where you were cut open by loss, where dreams fell apart, where hopes went unanswered, those are not only proof that you are human. They are also the lived, textured experience that enables you to stand beside someone else in a similar midnight and say, without pretending and without platitudes, I have known this kind of darkness, and I am not alone in it, and neither are you. Let me show you the light I found there. That kind of truth, pulled from real experience instead of borrowed from theory, cannot be faked or replaced. No course, no natural talent can substitute for it. You have been gathering that kind of depth even in seasons that felt like pure loss. So if you have been holding yourself just outside the path, lingering at a distance from what calls you, this is the invitation to return. If you have been letting fear keep you at the sidelines, watching others step into what looks like their purpose while you hesitate about your own, step closer again. The way forward has not vanished. The invitation has not expired. The gifts in you have not withered. The architecture of who you are has not been scrapped and rebuilt, it has been waiting. Waiting for this precise moment when you are ready to hear with a new clarity. And you are ready, that is why these words find you now. It is time to look at how your path actually tends to unfold. Many people picture purpose as a single blinding revelation, like a bolt of lightning that strikes once and leaves everything reordered. That can happen, but more often the process is far quieter, more like walking into a dense forest and slowly learning to see the trail. At first, all you can make out are trees and shadows. It looks like undifferentiated wilderness. But if you keep looking, your vision starts to adjust. What first appeared chaotic begins to organize itself. You notice that the earth is slightly more worn in one direction, that the light pools differently along a narrow strip, that the undergrowth is thinner between certain trunks. It dawns on you that this is, in fact, a path. You still cannot see where it leads or how long it runs, but you can see where your foot could land next. And something important happens when you take that step, the following few meters become visible. Then, as you move again, another bit of trail reveals itself. This is how purpose generally works. You are rarely shown the far horizon. You are given enough light for the next section. The one who guides you does this intentionally, not to frustrate you, but to protect you. You are not meant to carry the weight of the entire journey all at once. You are meant to grow into it piece by piece, to be formed as you go so that, by the time you arrive at the more demanding stretches of the road, you will have become someone who can bear them. This means that, within the life you are actually living right now, not the one you wish you had, there are already steps available. Already there are places where your particular kindness could be offered, where your skill could quietly serve, where your viewpoint could make a difference. You do not need a bigger audience or a more glamorous setting before you start. The path is beneath your feet already. The question is whether you are willing to recognize it. Somewhere in you, there is probably a step that has been waiting. Perhaps it looks like a hard conversation you have delayed because you doubted whether it was your role to initiate it. Perhaps it is a chance to use a talent you have long minimized, in a space that intimidates you. Perhaps it is the decision to pick up an old love, a craft, a study, a dream, you shelved when life got crowded or when somebody told you it was unrealistic. Whatever that specific step is, you likely already feel its outline. This is your confirmation that it matters. The road does not stretch further in theory, it extends in practice, in the direction of the steps you actually take. It is not that the rest of the path is being hoarded away from you like a reward, it is that the path is discovered through movement. As you act in trust, the next segment comes into focus. This is the cadence of a life lived in alignment with calling, step, then clarity, then another step. Finally, understand this about those whose lives seem deeply rooted in purpose. They are not untouchable heroes. Often they are not the flashiest, the most obviously brilliant, or the most widely applauded. What distinguishes them is not that they possess rare, dramatic gifts, but that they have recognized what they are made for and have chosen, again and again, to live from that place with their whole hearts. They keep offering themselves regardless of how many people notice, regardless of whether their work fits the world's current metrics of success. Their quiet advantage is not raw ability, it is alignment. When a life is in tune with its reason for being, there is a quality of strength that rises from somewhere deeper than discipline. When you are engaged in a work that fits the shape of your soul, a door inside you swings open. Tasks that would drain someone misaligned, someone forcing themselves into a role that does not fit, may leave you oddly full, even when they demand much of you. Giving yourself in the right direction does not hollow you out, paradoxically, it fills you. Time moves differently there, effort costs something, yes, but the cost feels connected to meaning, and meaning has its own way of returning energy to you. This is the kind of life that is possible when you trust the quiet seasons, honor the data of your deepest joy, allow your detours to be reworked into wisdom, and take the next small step on the path that is already waiting under your feet. You respond to certain things differently for a reason. Something deep in you can feel when your life lines up with what you were made for, the way a lock knows its key and turns without effort. That resonance is not a mood, not a passing trick of your mind. It is the architecture of why you are here. You were crafted to flourish when your life and your calling are in harmony, and that is what I desire for you, not a life you can simply endure or manage, not a life that looks acceptable from the outside, but the life in which you feel vividly, unmistakably alive. I want you on the path that fits the exact shape of your soul, walking a way that fits your steps as if the road itself were molded around your feet. I gave you particular capacities, carved into you before your first breath, and there is something specific only you can bring, something this world quietly waits for, something no one else can replicate. That life, the one that feels like an honest answer to why you exist, is not for other people only. It is not held back until you become flawless, perfectly healed, or stripped of all doubt. It is yours, now. It is the way I have been quietly preparing long before you knew to ask for it. In every journey there is a threshold, a point where the traveler stops wondering if the way exists and must decide whether to step onto it. The road comes into view, not fully, but clearly enough to follow, and the question shifts from, is this real, to, will I choose to walk this? That point does not always feel like triumph or unshakable confidence. It is more often a still, steady resolve, a settled awareness that does not rely on having every answer in advance. It feels like a willingness to move toward what you know is true, one small step at a time, trusting the one who laid the stones beneath your feet. That is the moment I am inviting you into now. Not a moment of total comprehension. Not a moment where every doubt evaporates or every detail has been neatly clarified. Simply a moment of agreeing to take the step that is currently visible. To say yes to the portion of the road you can see. To bring the gift that is already in your hands into the place that is already in front of you. Because that single step, that simple yes, has a way of revealing the next stretch of path, and the next yes uncovers the one after that. As you move, I want to prepare you for a part of this road that often surprises people, the place where your true calling collides with the life you built while you were waiting to be sure. There comes a point when what you are made for asks something of you that is costly. Because the way of purpose is rarely the route of lowest resistance. Sometimes the direction I point you in will require you to release things that once felt like safety, a role that covered your expenses but slowly diminished your spirit, a pattern of relationship that felt familiar but did not call you forward, a version of yourself designed to win approval but never aligned with your inner truth. Your calling will, at times, ask you to leave certain things behind, not out of cruelty, not as a test for its own sake, but because the life that fits your purpose cannot be built on the foundations of a life that did not. This is where courage shows up in your story in a very specific way. Not the explosive bravery of a dramatic, single moment under fire, but a quieter, enduring courage that chooses day after day to move toward what is real, even when it would be easier to remain where you are. It is the courage to let some people down in order to be loyal to what you are actually called to. The courage to risk looking unsure, unconventional, or off-script while your purpose is emerging and settling into place. The courage to release a smaller story so you can enter a larger one. That kind of courage is not built overnight, it grows through repeated, small acts of fidelity to what you know in your depths, even when there is a social or emotional price. With every choice to favor alignment over admiration, with every moment you discover that living in sync with what you are meant for, though sometimes less comfortable, feels more authentic than any ease offered by misalignment, your courage thickens, steadies, matures. And as that courage grows, what you surrendered begins to look different from the vantage point of greater alignment. The things you parted with no longer appear as pure loss when you look back from further down the road. They begin to resemble the deliberate unloading of a traveler preparing for a long journey, shedding weight that could not be carried into the next terrain. They begin to look like freedom, freedom gained by letting go, freedom that allowed a deeper, truer expression of who you have always been meant to become. I want to bring you back now to the center of all of this, because truths this deep rarely land in a single pass. They need to be revisited, approached from new angles, until they reach the inner places where resistance has lived. You were never placed here merely to watch. You were not born to sit in the audience while others step into their roles and you wonder whether you missed yours. You are not off stage, waiting for permission. You are already on the scene, the story already unfolding, and the part crafted for you is not being performed by a stand-in while you hesitate. It remains open, bearing your name, patient but not passive. That role cannot be filled by a projection of who you think you should become. It is not held for a future, polished version of you who has finally fixed everything. It is meant for the you who exists right now, with scars that have turned into understanding, with abilities that have quietly grown even in seasons where you thought nothing was happening, with that ache in your chest you have labeled confusion but which I call the accurate pull of a compass. That ache is not a mistake, it is guidance. It is indicating your way home. And home, in this sense, is not an address or a landscape. It is the lived reality of being exactly who you were shaped to be, doing what you were shaped to do, in conscious relationship with the one who shaped you. At its deepest level, purpose is not a job description. It is the degree of congruence between your soul and its source. Every chapter of your story, every bond, every parting, every joy that surprised you, every long and heavy stretch of road, has been used to turn you toward that congruence. All of it has been converging on this point, this increased clarity, this readiness, this quiet willingness to stop wondering whether you have a purpose and to begin walking as if you unquestionably do. Your calling is not a hazy, formless notion. I told you that at the start, and I will say it again because I know how often you have feared that you alone were left with a blurry assignment while others received theirs in vivid color. Let me place something simple and tangible in your hands for what comes next. When you are unsure of the full shape of your purpose but long to move in its direction, carry this question with you like a compass through the ordinary moments of your days. What is mine to offer here? Let that question accompany you, not as a rigid rule or a checklist to perform, but as a living inquiry you bring into each interaction and environment. Instead of waiting for some grand, cinematic revelation of your destiny before you begin living with intention, you let this question uncover the small, specific contributions that are already before you. You start to notice the person right in front of you who needs something only you are holding. The circumstance that calls for the precise attention, skill, steadiness, humor, or compassion you've been cultivating. The open space in a room that is shaped exactly like what you have to give. Practicing this question over time trains your perception. You begin to see, again and again, the subtle correspondence between what you carry and what the moment is asking for, not just in dramatic crises, but woven all through the unnoticed fabric of your days. That ongoing recognition is the path. The consistent act of bringing your real self and your real gifts to what is already in front of you is what your road looks like when you are walking it faithfully, through quiet stretches as much as through moments that feel significant. Your purpose is not reserved for highlights, it is meant to infuse all of it. The clarity you crave is within reach, but it arrives the same way every other part of your journey with me has arrived. It is not delivered while you stand at a distance hoping for a complete map. It unfolds as you come closer. As you step into what is already apparent. As you offer what is already in your possession to the people and places already at your side. As you trust that greater revelation comes while you are in motion, not while you are frozen. The path that was formed for you is visible enough for your next move, and for this moment, that is all you actually need. What I am laying before you is not an abstract reflection on purpose, it is a concrete invitation into a particular way of living, the one tailored to you, the one etched with your name, the one that will feel misaligned and ill-fitting to anyone else who tries to copy it because it was created for the exact design of your inner life. The road recognizes your steps. The calling is familiar with your name. I also want to touch the place in you where these words may feel complicated. Perhaps you sense a friction, the awareness that you have heard language about purpose and calling before, that you have wrestled with these themes, prayed over them, searched, circled, returned, and this is not your first time traveling this stretch in your thoughts. Maybe you have known seasons when everything felt sharp and clear, only to be followed by fog, and you have wondered whether the earlier clarity was genuine or just wishful thinking. Maybe you have walked toward what you believed was your calling, only to watch circumstances shift, doors close, and paths disappear beneath your feet. Maybe you have stood on the shore watching others stride into what looks like sure purpose while you remain in a posture of questioning, and over time that contrast has begun to feel personal, as though there was some unsolved problem in you that keeps you spinning around the question rather than arriving at the answer. Hear this without condemnation, the circling is not evidence of failure. Returning again and again to this question, even after you thought it was settled, does not prove that you are stuck or unmoving. It testifies to how seriously you hold this matter. The ones who are indifferent to their purpose do not keep coming back to it with such persistence. The very fact that you still care, that you continue to wonder whether your life is aligned with something real and meaningful, is part of the design of the person this road was shaped for. Deep seeking is what allows deep finding. Roots that burrow slowly in the soil of searching are the same roots that will hold firm when the winds come later along the way. The chapters that ended before you felt finished, the opportunities that shut their doors, the unfinished stories, none of them disqualify you from this road. They are part of how you are being prepared to walk it with a strength that will last. There have been long stretches in your life that you've labeled as mistakes, as missteps, as proof that you somehow missed the one chance that was meant for you. I want you to begin regarding those stretches with a different lens than the one fear has been handing you. That opportunity that slipped away, that relationship that ended, that job that you were so sure was yours but vanished anyway, did not disappear because you were unworthy or because the universe was indifferent to you. It closed because, beyond that threshold, the way forward was not the way fashioned for the particular shape of your life. It might have been a meaningful path for someone else. It might have held goodness, growth, and beauty for another pair of feet. But it was not the path calibrated to the strengths, wounds, questions, and gifts that live inside you. Any door that empties out onto a road that diverges from what is truly yours, no matter how golden it looks at first glance, is a door that I will allow to shut, not as punishment, not as cruelty, but as protection for the journey that truly belongs to you. Every no has been information. Every delay, every reroute, every unexpected ending has carefully narrowed the field of options, subtly steering you away from what would have deluded you and toward what will require and reveal the fullness of who you are. Eliminating what isn't quite right is still movement. Walking through almost fits and near misses has been training your eye, your intuition, your spirit to recognize the exact right fit when it finally stands in front of you. The clarity you are moving toward has been refined through all those circles you've walked, through all those doors you've knocked on only to find them closed, through each season that felt like wandering instead of arriving. Because of the process, you will know with a deeper certainty what belongs to you and what does not. The sense of, this is it, that arises after a long search is far more grounded, far more unshakable, than any sense of rightness you would have had if you had simply stumbled into the right place without ever needing to question, explore, or wait. Before I address the part of you that is simply worn out, I want to speak to the part of you that has been paying attention. The quiet observer in you has noticed the way certain conversations have resurfaced, how particular topics keep showing up across different areas of your life, how old interests or long-buried ideas are emerging again with new weight. You've sensed that connections are forming between things that once seemed random, that there is a pattern beginning to take shape out of scattered fragments. It feels less like coincidence and more like something is gently, insistently being woven. You are not imagining that. Your perception is sound. What you feel gathering is real. The subtle rearrangement you've been sensing is not fantasy. It is the actual revealing of a path that was always under you, now becoming visible as your inner sight acclimates to the increasing light I've been casting over this part of your story. When a life's direction is on the verge of coming into sharp focus, the time just before that often feels like convergence. Threads that once dangled separately begin to braid together. Memories, current circumstances, and longings for the future begin to show that they are not independent episodes but chapters from the same book. This is not you indulging in wishful thinking. This is me at work, drawing back together what was scattered, steadying what felt scrambled, clarifying the way ahead so that the next stretch of your journey will be steadier, more deliberate, more sustained. The cluster of signs around you, the recurring themes, the inner nudges and outer confirmations, they are not random. They are evidence that a fresh kind of understanding is close. This is a threshold season, one in which new insight is about to move from vague to specific, from abstract to actionable, from something you sense is out there to something you can actually walk in, day by day. Treat this particular time as a gift. Guard the level of awareness you've been cultivating. Stay awake to subtle cues. Remain present to what is being shown. Because the clarity you've longed for is in the process of crystallizing into choices, commitments, steps that belong uniquely to you. Now, let me speak to the part of you that is simply tired. The unending search for why you are here, when it drags on without a satisfying answer, becomes its own kind of heaviness. The measuring yourself against other people's timelines, the starting and stopping, the projects begun with hope then abandoned in confusion, the restless nights where, once the noise of the day fades, you are left once more with the raw, familiar question: what is the point of me? What should I do with the one set of days I have? That exhaustion is real. I see it and I hold it gently. But what I am offering you now is not more endless searching, not another circuit of the same doubts. What is being offered is an arrival, not the end of all becoming, but a kind of inner landing. The compass within you that has been spinning between options is preparing to quiet. The needle is learning what it means to find and hold to true north. Your purpose is not some far-off event waiting years ahead on the horizon. It is already in motion inside your present circumstances. It is not something that will suddenly crash into your life from the outside, fully formed. It is something that has been forming quietly within you and around you, now coming into view with greater sharpness. The insight you have begged for is not distant. It is closer than your loudest fears, beneath the constant mental noise, ready to rise as you dare to take the small, concrete steps available to you now. Return your attention to the piece of path you can see. Step onto what is in front of you, even if it is just a single next act of courage or integrity or service. Offer what is already in your hands, however modest it seems. Say yes to the quiet call you keep hearing underneath all your reasons to wait. Trust that the one who shaped this road is committed not only to its design but to your company along every meter of it, lighting what you need to see at the moment you need it, placing provision where it will meet you right when you arrive, supplying strength at the exact point where your own runs thin. As you walk the path you were made to walk, something subtle but powerful begins to shift inside you. Fear does not instantly vanish. This matters to name, because many people imagine that if they had truly found their purpose, they would feel no hesitation, no doubt, no trembling. When their nervousness doesn't disappear, they assume they've chosen wrongly and are tempted to turn back. But living in your purpose does not erase uncertainty, it transforms how you relate to it. Once, fear stood like a barricade right in front of you, dictating where you could and could not go. As you walk the road that is actually yours, that same fear moves to your side. You still feel it. It still speaks. But it no longer gets to command your direction. You walk with it instead of waiting for it to evaporate. You act even while your heart pounds. And as you keep going, the path begins to prove itself beneath your feet. You find, again and again, that the ground holds. You notice that help has a pattern of arriving in ways you could not have orchestrated. You realize that when you step into spaces that require more than you think you have, something in you and around you rises to meet the need. Slowly, fear stops being a tyrant and becomes background noise, never fully silent, but no longer in control, tamed by the accumulation of real experiences where you were held, supplied, sustained. This is one of the hidden treasures of staying with the journey. With each mile behind you, your story grows heavier with evidence. More memories of provision. More instances where apparent dead ends somehow shifted into unexpected openings. More moments in which what looked like loss rerouted you toward deeper alignment. Each of these becomes another stone in the foundation of your trust that you are not abandoned on this road. Trust is almost never granted all at once, it is layered through lived experience, and the slow unfolding of your purpose is the classroom in which that trust is taught. Along this road, another gift appears, one that cannot fully develop anywhere else. As you consistently show up as yourself in the places that need what you carry, you will discover that you are not traveling alone. Yes, I am with you, always, but beyond that, the path itself has a way of drawing other travelers whose lives are also orienting toward what they were made for. You will begin to recognize kindred spirits, people whose strengths balance yours, whose insights sharpen you, whose courage encourages yours. They will step in when your reserves run low, and there will be times when you do the same for them. This is not the kind of circle you manufacture by forcing networking or curating a persona. It is the community that quietly gathers when people, each in their own way, start walking in honest alignment. There is a particular feeling when this community takes shape, like arriving in a place you've never been and yet somehow knowing it, like encountering people you've just met and realizing they feel strangely like home. You realize that the road you thought you had to walk alone was, in fact, intersecting with others all along. There is also a deep mending that comes with this kind of alignment, a healing that doesn't fully arrive through affirmation, success, or comfort alone. It is the healing of knowing that your existence has weight. That your days are not random filler. That your presence and contribution are not accidental extras in the world's story. The questions that have haunted you, do I matter? Is my effort pointless? Is there any real reason I am here at all, are met with a resounding yes that echoes not only in what I say to you, but in the lived experience of walking in what fits you. As the distance between who you are inside and what you do with your life grows smaller, a quiet rightness settles into your core. The ache of not knowing why loosens. The frayed edges within you begin to knit together. Peace shows up not as passivity, but as the sense that your feet are finally landing where they were meant to land. What I am inviting you into is not merely a faraway finish line but an unfolding way of being that starts now. Your purpose is not a static title you eventually earn, it is a living relationship between your design and your daily life, one that becomes more vivid the more you trust it and participate in it. With every step, what you are here for becomes more textured, more nuanced, more fully embodied. The journey does not conclude, it deepens. Each season along this way expands your understanding of both your calling and the one who entrusted it to you. Every small act of faithfulness, however hidden. Every time you offer your gifts in an unnoticed corner. Every choice to stay true in a quiet, uncelebrated moment builds substance in you that the simple passage of time could never generate on its own. You are not simply advancing towards some external goal, you are being shaped into a truer, fuller expression of the person you were imagined to be from the beginning. Now allow me to bring you to a higher overlook, a small rise in the road where your view stretches further than it has before. From here, what lies ahead is not just more of the same. Ahead of you is a widening, an increase not necessarily measured in status, applause, or numbers, though those may or may not come in their time, but an expansion in depth, in presence, in the potency of what you bring to the world. Imagine a river that begins as a narrow, urgent current tumbling down from the heights. It is swift, bright, full of force, but confined within tight banks. All its power is compressed into a small space. As the river continues, it descends, widens, and deepens. It doesn't become weaker, its strength is expressed differently. It grows broad enough to carry vessels, generous enough to nourish entire landscapes, steady enough to support life that could never have survived in the earlier, narrower stretch. This is the kind of expansion that is ahead of you, not a loss of intensity, but the transformation of that intensity into something spacious, sustainable, and profoundly life-giving, for you and for those whose paths will intersect with yours as you continue to walk the road that is, and always has been, uniquely yours. Hey Tuong Tuong Emoticon Swoi No Che Zaya, by Kim Trong Long Ki Hep, Noak Lao Di Voi Va Nu So Dan Mat Chin Min. Roy Emotige, Ki Demo Rome, Dong Noak Kong Mat Di Tok Du He Suc Song. Ma Chin Sai Voi Va Ban Dao I Doak Jai Fong Ton Emoticon Song Lon Han, Rong Han, Sao Han. Du Kong Phi La Su Tat Lin Qua Kong Thiet, Ma La Su Truong Ton Qua No. Du Kung La Hin On Tuong Lai Doi Song Ko Chu Dai Qua Ban, Tat Sie Nong Luong, Dan Mi Va Kim Jiak Doak Goi Tu Ben Trong, Thursday De Che Mi Nai Ca Trong and Hung Jai Donamo Ho. Hong Mang, Kong Bien Mat Kai Ban Truong Ton, Ma Tim Doak, Bo Bai, Fu Hop De Tiro Ton Chin Min Mo De Catch Tron Ven Han. Mot Dong Che Du Rong De Nong Du Sao De Nui Song and Hung Gi Fu Thuak Veo No, Du Trong De Nuoi Kok Nin Thay Tan De, Cam Nan Doak Du Tin Ke, Su Tin Sach, Va Ko The Cui Suang Wong Ma Kong So Hai. Su Vien Man Trong and Uc Dike Song Kong Phi La Ju G Xa Zoi Mo Ho, Dan Cho Mo Tige Now Du Chua Den, No La Diem Den Tu Nin Qua Mo Ti Nuoi Chi Don John La Tip Tuc Buk Di, Tip Tuc Kong Roy Koi Konduo. Moi Buk Chan Trong Tin Kio Ban Gon Han Toi Du. Moi Lon Ban Mang and Hung Gi Min Ko Veo Dung Noi Dang Thu Vang. Long Song Trong Ban Doak Koet Saltham. Moi Mua Doak Yun Nan, Ren Lian Mo Rong Them Dung Luong Qua Lin Han Ban. Tung Buk Mot, Con Song Trong Ban Dang Tro Ton Con Song Ma Tu Ban Dao No De Doak Thiet Ku De Tro Ton. Va O Tung Kuk Quan, Ta Van Dang O Du, Tam Ju Chin Cho Long Song Rong Han Cho Kan Rong, Dao Sao Cho Kan Sao. Don Sach and Hung Tangda, and Hung Kan Ko Chan Gang, De Dong Che Trung Ton Voi Thiet Ku De Doak Geo. Veo Ban Nai Tu Kai Doi Song Ban Bat Dao. Geo De, Ta Muon Noi Voi Ban V and Hung Con Nuoi Zut Hien Tren Con Duonai, Boi Vmuc Dai Kong Bao Geo La Chien Di Mot Min, Va and Hung Nuoi Kung Di Kong Phi La Chi Tit Fu. Ho La Emotifan Qua Loi Tru Goi. Trong Doi Ban De Ko San and Hung Nuoi Dang Tam Cho Doi Phin Ban Song Gon Voi Tiang Goi Qua Min Han, Kong Phi Cho Doi Emotikach Wai Tuk, Ho Kong Goi Du Givi, Su Men, Qua Ban, and Hung Ho Dang Song Jua and Hung Koang Thu Vang Ma Chin Mon Qua Ban, Chin Con Duong Qua Ban, Doak Sin Are De Cham Toi Va Lap De. Dula Nuoi Se Duak Juvung Chi Boi Su Hien Dien Rat Riang Qua Ban. La Nuoi Se Vut Qua Mot Don Duong Ko Con No Chin Ka Chin Ban De Tung Guc Na Roy Dung De, and Hung Ju Ban De Nem Tre Tu Ben Trong, Chu Kong Phi Chi Hok Thuak Tu Sach Bo. La Nuoi Kan Nin Thay Mot Doi Song Nu Doi Song Qua Ban. Mot Doi De Di Qua Quang Duong Dai Tim Kim, Ben By Dat Ka Hoi, Ba Roy Dan Cham Doak Veo Su Sang Tu, De Ho Beat Rang Han Trin Di Tim Kong Phi La Vionia, Rang Con Duong La Ko That. En Hung Nuoi I Kong Phi La Fong Min Cho Ka Chien Ban Kuvi Ban Nan. Ho Chin La Ly Du Kien Ka Chien Ko Trong Luong. Ho La En Hung Lin Han Ma Vi Ho. Tung Buk Chan Qua Ban Tiro Nin Dang Ku. Muk Dike Duok Treo Cho Ban Kong Chila Mon Qua Gui Cho, the Gioi Emotikach Mo Ho, Malamon Qua Dan Tang Cho and Hung Kyoan Mat Siu the Veo and Hung Koan Kok that Su Con Thiet. Su Vang Fu Qua Ban Truok Loi Goi Chin La Loi Ban Tra Loi, Con San Song Ko Mat, Trong and Hung Koan Kok Nu the. Vive, Rot Kuok, Muc Dike Doi Ban Kong Zoe Quan, Ban, Theo Nia Hep. Kong Phi Vi Nim Vui Va Su Men Nguyen Qua Ban Kong Quan Trong, Chung Quan Trong, Va Nam Nai Trong Thiet Kuban Dao. En Hung Vi Su Tho Long Sao Xa Not Kong Den Tu Vik Ban Cam Thay Min De Sap Zep Doak Moi Man Gep Ben Trong. Ma den tu koen kok mon qua ban mang theo cham trung vet thuang ma no doak sin are de chualan, cham dung cho trong ma no doak tau are de lap day. Kai ban nin thay tok dong siu the quadu ban mang lai trong mot doi nuoi siu the, koen kok du tra loi tat ca, dap tat and hung hai gi siu ky man mi han bat ky lap 1 ly trino. No ti tam. Vi the ma con duong na tun tai. Vi the ma en hung nam thang dai dang dac kia la kan thiet. Con duong doak dung len cho ban kong dan toi mot doi song bi no, tu tung. No dan toi mot doi song day, en hung kong phi day lich hen, song vik, he han long. Day theo nia sao, day, jiao, day boi nia. Boi chiu sao, boi su fong pu dac bi chi ko the den tu mot doi song the quiet din treo min cho du gi du lon han chin no. Day theo nia and nin thoen win, Thursday ben and lang tan trong suang, kong kan duok bom them bang on mat ton quang he trang vo te tu ben miguai. Du la su yen on im lang qua emot kan nuoi beat vi sa min hien dien. Vamwa gay beat min dang song theo hu beat I, treo di and hung gi min doak tau are de treo, ba don. Nan and hung gi con duong goi den. Doi song du dang o trong tam te ban. Ta tu hao vi ban, kong phi vi tat ca and hung ju ban de lam doak he chua lam doak, ma vi ban de kong dung lai kai con duong mod. Vi ban van tip tuc quantum kai quantum tiaron and hautan, vi ban van tip tuc hoi and hung ka hoi sao kai ka tra loi dan that cham. Chin sai su trung ton du, su ben by qua tom han du, sai quiet kong chiu roi mat koi ju gi du ban lin kem la koda, du chua goi ten doak. Chin la dao hu cho thay ban de san song de buk sao han veo han trin doak dan cho min. Va bai geo, ban de san song. Con duong de lo mat. Tieng goi kong con la ti tam exe zoi. En hung mon qua de nam san trong te. Su chu cap de doak sap dat doc loi ban di. En hung con nuoi kan den en hung gi ban mang de o dung 6 tri qua ho. Buk tip theo de nam nai dui chan ban. Ju con thu chi la ban chiu nak chan len va buk. Ta si kung di voi ban trong tung buk I, kong phi nu nuoi jiam set exe zoi tu mot noi qua chow de hu. Ta la ban dong han de dike than dung min con duong nai. Di kung ban tren du, thuak tung honda, tung kuk quan, bi chin zakis uc chiu dung qua ban o tung cham, ba si kong dat len vi ban motsuc nong malput qua kanong o motidoi dmcu the. Ta la ongwan bo sung kai ban kien suc, la noi hoi fuk kai ban ra roi. O moi diem tren con duong. Ta luan gan wa voi muc dike dan cho ban han chin ban ko the tuong tuong, vmuc dike qua ban kong tach roi koi tinu ta dan cho ban, no la mo de catch tinu I koako, yuk veo tuk tai. Ta du ban bang catch ban cho ban and hung mon qua riang beat. Ta du ban bang catch det men mot con duong and kop ky la voi ban chat sao tan qua ban. Ta du ban bang catch di kung ban, ko si a trong and hung nam thang ban kong he beat. Ta du ban bang catch hello tung fan vi loi goi qua ban voi tak duma tom han ban ko the om tron, de ban kong chi, beat vi, no, Watuk su song doak ben trong no. Ta diu ban bang catch kong chiu tu bo con duong I nai ca kai ban ring gang, lo on de san emoti loi que lai. Ta diu ban bang catch tiro tonis uc man ma ban kong ko, de tiang goi kong de nat ban, ma nong ban len kai ban buk di kung no. Chin tin unai de goi ban veo su hien hu. Chin tin unai de tre san con duong. Chin tin unai dang len tiang voi ban bai geo. Va tin unai kong chi noi chung chung vi, y nia song, no dang dan ban theo mot hung siu the, kien nan va song dong, nai trong hien tai, jua doi song de qua ban, voi en hung gi ban dang ko, tu dung toa du ban dang dung. Su to lo vmuc dai qua ban kong fi la mot bien ko tuong lai ban cho doi, no la mot qua trin dang mora tung gay, va ban de o ben trong no roy. Moi kuok tro chien kien ban sui gimai, moi tre niam de lai vet in trong lo, moi koen kok ngak nien vi moi Thursday bong en kop, mot loi noi dung luke. Emotikan qua mo2 noi ban kong ngo toi, tat ca du la and hung ka chu trong gon go bang du mata day. Dung de noi voi ban. Hey hok dok gon gu du. Hey hok nan ra tiang ta trong ket ka ben di qua tung gay. Hey tap they hin dang con duong trong and hung don duong nu ro rong. Va tin veo su hien dien qua ta trong in hung kuk mu mit. Vi con duong la ko that. Muk dik dan cho ban la ko that. Tiang goi tren doi ban la that, see you the, va kong mot nuoi nao kok tu truok toi ne he vi sao nai ko the song tron thay ban. Ko mot koong trong juanan john duok tau ra cho dawan rat rieng qua ban. Mu ban kong buk veo, no se con trong. Koang trong I dang cho ban voi mot dang kien nan kien tri, jong nu su kien nan voi du ta de cho ban di den loi kok nai. Vei nen, hey buk. Dam en hung gi ban dang mang dat veo kong john nai truok mat. Hey trung tin voi don duong non angui hien dang nin thay duok, va zem tamo dan them tung kuk nua, cho toi kai vdep ton ven qua ju de duok chuan by cho doi ban tiron and ro rung dan muc ban kong the fu nan. Ban duok sin ra cho con duong nai, va con duong nai duok sin ra cho ban. Kong Phi Mot, Con Duong Chung Chung Qua Nan Loi, Ma Ai Kung Ko the Buk, Mala Con Duong Siu the Night, Voi Kyoja Hin Qua No, and Hung Kuk Quan, and Hung Din Chow Va Thung Lung, Va Dik Den Dok Not Qua No, Tat Ca Duok Dung Min Tuong Sung Voi Con Nuoi Ban, and Hung Mon Qua Ban Mang, Va Ka Chin De Neo Nan Min Ban. Kong ko doi chan nao kok kop voi con duong nai nu buk chan qua ban. Kong ko qua ku nao kok duok when de hop voi kua con trin nai nu lich su qua ban. Kong ko to hop nao kok jua and hung gi ban de nan va and hung gi ban de tre qua ma du gwin de song tron loi goi nai nu ban. Hey buk di, hoi chien qui qua ta. Hey buk voi nim vui va su condemn. Buk voi hu beat rang tung buk doak jin ju, tung mon qua doak trong thay, tung han dong bang fuk, du no den dao, du dang doak det veo emoti buk tran lon va ruk aro han tam min hien tai qua ban. Han trin qua muc dik doi ban koi dao, hok koi dao lai, nai tai day. Va kai ban buk, hey mang theo su that night, dang goi ban chin la dang jin ju ban. Ban kong fi tu dung y chi don dok de kio lo tiang goi qua min. Ban mang no trong mot moi tuong jiao. Kai duong dai va and hung dao hu tien trien tiron and thua thought, He tiro lai voi moi tuong jiao ai. Kai so hai troi day, va tiang noi hai gi trong dao ti tam rang ban de lam wan tu dao, he tiro lai voi moi tuong jiao ai. Kai suc non qua ju ban mang ko vi vut qua ka nam, he tiro lai voi moi tuong jiao ai, va ban se the ta van dang gan kung ban tu truak den ne. Tiang goi I chua tung duok thait kudanam hong tong tren vai ban, no luan duok din cho doi vai chung ta kung mang. Du la jiao uoc qua con duong, kong fi ta hua lam no tiaron in dedam, ma ta hua trung tin. Kong fi moi don du sang aro, en hung moi byuk chan ton tim kim se duok gap on sang qua ta. Kong Phi Ban Se Chong Bao Gio Met Moi, Roy Boi, He Ho Gi, and Hung Trong Tung Con Roy, Tung Lon Kiet Suc, Tung Con Hong Mang I, Te Ta. Van Dat Tren Vi Ban, Tiang Ta Van Gi Ben Tai, De La Loi. He Buk Theo, Ta O De. He Di Ti, Hoi Chien Qui Qua Ta. He di nu mot nuoi beat min de duok goi, duok trang bai, duok dan dat va duok dong han. He di voi su zak quiet rang ju ban mang theo ko trong luom tuk su, va rang de gioi dang thiu vang ju I de san san don nan. Nu en hung loi nai cham veo noi sao tam trong ban hong ne, he de chung kong chi dung lai trong long. Ma che tip sang mot nuoi now du dang and tam tu hoi vi sa min ko mat tren doi, mot nuoi dang moi mon cho mot dao chi cho the doi min kong fi la sai so. Su hien dien qua ban ko jia tri. Tiang noi qua ban ko wainia. Va kai ban dan buk veo du rong tron ven qua muc dik doi min. Uoc gi tung buk chan qua ban tiro ton loi king din em tam rang, kuok doi nai, va con duong de duok dung riang cho ban trong du, chua tung lai mo de sai lam. May you move forward with a deep, steady calm, trusting that in this moment your life is unfolding in the exact place and way it is meant to unfold.